Today we are going to discuss the Cūḷavedalla Sutra. It is found in the Majjhima Nikaya. English translations is the middle length sayings. This sutra also gets into talking about the higher teachings, what we call the real Abhidharma. And the interesting thing to note here is that there has been, during the time of the Buddha, husband and wife, they were studying the teachings of the Buddha. Somehow the wife became interested in meditation and she became an arhat. That means she reached the highest level. And the husband, still being a layman, he comes to meet the arhat who was his former wife. And then, with great respect, he asks questions. And Arhat Bhikkhuni answers the questions. And the questions are answered just in the same words that the Buddha has been teaching. And it is a very well answered. So it's a good discussion here. That is what we are going to talk about. So here you have all the sutras, and you can read when I say, "Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Rajagaha, in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's sanctuary. Then the lay follower Visakha." Now that you have heard that name Visakha, but that same name, sometimes you get the female and the male. When it is the male name, you pronounce it as Visakha. But when it is a female, you pronounce it as Visakha. That's the difference. Visakha is a female name. Visakha is the male name. So this person's name is Visakha. He is a male. And so Visakha, the lay follower, went to the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna. Now when she became a nun or Bhikkhuni, her name was Dhammadinna. So, but again, when that word also is sometimes used for the male as well as the female. So, when it is male, it is pronounced as Dhamma Dinna. But when it is a female, it is pronounced as Dhamma Dinna. So this is Dhamma Dinna, not Dhamma Dinna. So there are some monks also by that name, Dhamma Dinna. But when it is a female, it is Dhamma Dinna. So these are some things that useful to know. And so, after paying homage to her, he sat down at one side and asked her, "Lady, identity is said. What is called identity by the Blessed One?" Now here the translator has put the word lady. Usually the bhikkhuni is not addressed as lady, but very often here bhikkhuni is addressed as, we say sister. We say sister Bodhi when we address Bodhi, sister Bodhi. But here the translator has put the word lady. And the other interesting thing is identity. That is the word that is being used here. Now if you look in the Pali, the word that is used is Sakkaya. The Pali word Sakkaya has been translated as identity. I have explained this word Sakkaya before. It is Kaya. Kaya means the body. Kaya is the body. Sakkaya, their Sakkaya is really Swakaya. So that word Sakkaya comes from Swakaya. Swa means mind. M-I-N-E, mind. If you say this is my body, Swakaya means to say this is my body. It's ownership. Swa refers to own body, refers to the ownership of the body. But the important thing is the idea behind it is the personality. The personality is identified as the body. This is the point here. So this is why this person translated it as identity. It was translated as identity because it is the personality that is identified as the body. And so I translate this in a different way. I call it the personality perspective. Personality perspective. We think in terms of a personality. The personality perspective. So, the question is, we can use, instead of identity, we can use the word personality. So, lady, what is the personality? That is the question. What is called personality by the Blessed One? So the answer is, friend Visakha, these 5 aggregates affected by clinging are called personality by the Blessed One. Now, again, although they use the word 5 aggregates, aggregate means a totality. But the important thing is, what are we really talking about? This is why I translate this as the 5 constituents of the process of perception. It is the process of perception that we analyze into 5 parts. That process of perception is analyzed into 5 parts. That is why it is called the 5 constituents of the process of perception. Now, I have explained this many times, but for the purpose of those who don't remember, I will explain it again. First of all, I want to say that have you ever seen your body? No one has seen. I have never seen my body. You have never seen your body. You have seen other people's bodies, but not your own body. You may have seen your arms. When you look, you can see your arms. You might see your legs. You might even look and see your body. Have you seen the backside of yourself? Have you seen your face? You have looked at a mirror and seen an image of your face. Whenever you see your own photograph taken by someone else, you'll always think, this is not really myself. I am a little better than what I see in the picture. There is something wrong with the picture. You see, because you are only having an image in your mind of what you think you are, what you think you look like. You see, we have never really seen. So what you really think your body is, is a combination of what you see in the mirror and what you think you are. So your image in your mind is very different from what other people see when they look at you. Because you have never really seen yourself in the proper way. So, what you call yourself is a collection of various photographs your eye is taking. Your eye is like a camera taking photographs. And you have taken a collection of all those photographs put together. But not only what you see with your eyes, you also combine it with what you hear with your ears. And when you hear your voice, it is how you hear the voice. Other people may be hearing your voice in a different way. You see, and the smell that you get from your nose and the tongue that you get from your taste and the touch that you feel in your body. Now all that is a collection of pictures, sounds, smells, taste and touch. All that is collected, put together, and that is what you think you are. You see, that whole thing is all made up in your mind. You are not, it is not the real image that you have in your mind. And the image also begins to change in different situations. When you are at home, you are having one image. When you go to work in an office, you are having another image. If you walk on the streets, you have another image. And when you go to a shop to buy something, then you have another image. All these images are different. You see, but it is simply a collection of impressions that you call yourself. And all this is your personality. Your personality is what you think you are in your mind. But what other people think you are is another personality. So you have many personalities because there are many people who see you and talk to you, and it will be very different personalities. So you see, there is no real fixed personality. No real fixed personality. This is very important to understand. And when we talk about yourself, you are really combining all these things, and also it is depending on the process of perception. That is why this process of perception has been analyzed into 5 constituents of the process of perception. So other than the process of perception, there is no self to talk about. The only self that you can talk about is a collection of these things. So that is why the real self is not there. It's all in your imagination. So the personality perspective is your imagination that you have a self. This is why we speak of the 5 constituents of the process of perception. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. What is Rupa? Some people translate this word Rupa as the body. Rupa is not a body. Rupa means image, mental image. Now, even in this Malaysian language, Rupa means the image. Is that? Yeah. So Rupa is the image. So that is the Pali word, and the Sanskrit also it is the Rupa. So Rupa is the image. And Vedana refers to the feeling, whether there are 3 kinds of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. 3 kinds of feelings: sukha, dukkha, adukkha, masukha. So these 3 kinds of feelings is the feeling. And sanya refers to what you see when you open your eyes. Now it is very important to understand that the eye begins to see only when there is light. And so what you see is light. And light comes in different colors. So these are different colors because these are really, the color is not in the object. There is no object to even to talk about. It is only a creation of the mind. And light comes in the form of waves. And these waves has what is called a wavelength or frequency. And the color you see depends on that frequency or wavelength. So the color violet has one frequency: violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. These are different frequencies. So what you see as white is a combination of all these different frequencies. So Vedana and Sanya really refers to that color that you see. But when you see an object, how do you know it is an object? The object is created by the color. That is why when a person draws a picture, what they do is put colors on the screen. And it is the color that creates the picture. You put the different shades and colors. Now if you look at that image that you see there, that is not a photographic image, it is just a painting. And how did that person produce that picture? By putting the colors in a certain way, and then when you look at it as the image of a monk who is seated. You see, you are creating the image. That creation is the construction. So when we talk about sankhara, we are talking about construction. You are constructing the image. The image is constructed. And it is constructed by using the colors. And once the image is constructed, you are not only constructing one image. Now in that picture, if you look at the picture, you are not only seeing a human face, even in the human face, you have different things. One is the eyes, then you have the nose, then you have the chin, then you have a beard, and all those things are there, different things. To have different things and to be able to distinguish those different things, that is what is called vijnana. Vijnana is perception. The word perception is the meaning of the word vijnana. Vijnana is usually translated as consciousness. Vijnana is not consciousness, it is perception. So, to be able to distinguish between images is the vijnana. So when you open your eyes, you are not just seeing colors, you are seeing images. And that image is what is called rupa. So the word rupa refers to the image that you see. And not only seeing image, every time you see an image, you also give a name to it. That is how you identify the image. Even if you look at a flower, you are not only just saying flower, you are able to identify this is the petal, this is, of course, if you have learnt botany or scientific words, there is the stamen, the stigma, and all kinds of words that you use to describe the different parts of the flower. In the same way, if you see a face, you are not only just seeing a face, you are seeing the eyes, you see the eyebrows, then you see a forehead, you may see a mouth, you may see a ear, you may see a chin, or all kinds of things. You, according to the number of names you know, you have different things. So everything has every object has a name for it. If you don't have a name, it is not a separate object. The moment you separate something as an object, it becomes, you have a name for it. So, when we talk also, we are able to talk or use any language because we have names for everything. We have names not only for objects, we also have names for actions. So, the name for the action we call a verb, and the name for an object we call a noun. So we have names for those languages also, the words we use. So everything depends on the name. And so what is perceived comes in the form of an image and a name. That is what is called Nama and Rupa. Nama is the name, Rupa is the image. Nama Rupa. So it is very important to understand these things. So when we speak of a person, we are really speaking of all these different parts of the process of perception. So this is what the Arahant or Bhikkhuni Dhammadin said. Saying, good lady, the lay follower Visakha delighted and rejoiced in the Bhikkhuni Dhammadina's words. Then he asked her a further question. What is the further question? Lady, origin of identity. Origin of identity is said. What is called the origin of identity by the Blessed One? What is the origin of this identity? Or the personality. Instead of identity, we use the word personality. What is the origin of the personality perspective? How did people begin to think of a self? In other words, how did people begin to think of a self? Though the answer is, friend Visakha, it is craving which brings renewal of being, is accompanied by delight, lust, delights in this and that, that is craving for sensual pleasures, craving for being, and craving for non-being. Now this is another problem in these translations. So it is important to know the Pali words here. The question is, Sakkaya Samudayo, Sakkaya Samadayoti Vocchati, Katamo nu ko aye Sakkaya Samudayo. Now that word Sakkaya Samudayo has been translated as the origin of identity. That the real meaning is the origin of this personality perspective. What is the origin of this personality perspective? And the answer is here given as craving, but the real word is tanha. The word tanha is translated here as craving. Now, when we talk about tanha, Katamon ko sakkaya yayang auso tanha pono bhavika nandi raga sahagata tattarabi nandini. These words are very important to understand, but when badly translated, the meaning doesn't come out. This is the problem. Kataman ko sakkaya samadayoti. Now the answer is, it is tanha, not only saying it is craving. Now she says, the craving, there are these words, delight, lust, delights in this and that, craving for sensual pleasure, craving for being and craving for non-being. When you read it, it sounds like unimportant. But this is not unimportant. This tanha is described as pono bhavika. The word pono bhavika means, pono means again, bhavika means comes into being. It comes into being again. Now this is a very important statement, which when you hear it, it looks like not so important. But the importance means that this tanha, which is an emotion, is not just craving, it is the emotional excitement. The tanha is the emotional excitement. It is not only just the emotional excitement. You know, If we have a glass of water, it is not shaking when it is there. But if I begin to shake, it begins to shake. But if I just leave it alone, the shaking will stop. You understand? But if I again shake it, it will begin to shake again. So that shaking is not a thing that is all the time there. It stops and it comes back again. So it is, the shaking is a thing that comes again and again. So this thing called tanha, which is the emotional excitement, is not all the time being excited. It calms down, again it gets excited. It calms down, again it gets excited. And it doesn't stop forever, and it is all the time not excited. So tanha that is the meaning of pono bhavika. And that is a very important thing. This is a very important thing that Sigmund Freud mentioned in his psychology. That is called, he uses the word repetitive. It repeats. That tanha is repetitive. It keeps on repeating. So it's not something that comes and goes and disappears. It comes again and again. Again and again, that it is repetitive. So that pono bhavika means it is, tanha is always repetitive. Then nandi raga sahagata. Nandi raga sahagata means, this is also very important to know. Nandi is delight. Raga means passion. These two parts are present. That means, first you see something nice. The first thing that you do is to appreciate it. Now, if I give you a chocolate or some ice cream or something, then you will take delight in it. And when you take delight in it, the next thing is you are aroused with passion. You want it. So these two parts are there. Every emotional excitement. You start with appreciation. The second step is the passion. Appreciation and the passion. Nandi raga sahakrita. And then another one is tatra tatrabhinandini. Tatra tatrabhinandini. Tatra tatrabhinandini means you are not only appreciating one thing, you see another something, you begin to appreciate that also. Now this is like, say, a young man walks on the road, sees a nice looking girl. She begins to like that. But even if she, we not only like, that boy begins to talk to the girl and becomes friendly and all that. But then next day he walks and sees another girl and gets attracted to that also. So a person is not getting interested in one thing, but many things. You see that when that happens, then a conflict comes up. The first girl thinks, oh, this man is not only interested in me, but interested in other girls also. Ultimately, they lose their friendship. Then they want to start divorcing. See? You see, all these problems come up because our satisfaction is not just centered on one thing. When we see, whatever we see, we become interested in. So this tanha is a thing like that. We are not interested in just one thing. So these are the important things. Pono bhavika means again and again. Nandiraga sahata. There are these two parts. First the delight, then the passion. Then tatra tatrabhinandini means you are not only satisfied with one thing, you are satisfied with many things. And what is this? Tanha, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Three kinds of tanha. Kama tanha, because we have three kinds of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Tanha doesn't mean just desire. Hatred is also tanha. So desire for something is the desire for pleasant things. That is kama tanha. Then the desire for neutral things is the bhava tanha. Bhava tanha means you are not really attracted and desiring things, but you are aware of its existence. It is there. You are aware that it is there. And not only aware that it is there, you want that to be there. You are not specially beautiful. It's not specially beautiful, but it should be there. Like a wall. The wall you are not really thinking in terms of beauty, but you want that to be present there. And it can be used. Even a chair may not be beautiful, but you need that to be there because you can sit on it. You see, the neutral things, you want it to be there. What about the unpleasant things? Do you want it? Are you attracted to it? Or are you interested in having it there? The unpleasant thing, you don't want it to be there. That is the meaning of vibhava tanha. Vibhava means, may that not be. You don't want it to be there. The unpleasant things must be got rid of. That is the hatred. So, tanha is in these three forms. Pleasant thing, you want it, and the neutral thing, you want it to be there, and the unpleasant thing, you want that to be not there. That is the vibhava tanha. So this is tanha in these different forms. So it is important to know these things and understand that tanha is like the shaking of the water. But the shaking is there, it comes and goes. Now, this is another important thing here, that people, when they go to meditate, most people, they think meditation is concentration. What are they concentrating on? They are concentrating mostly on the breath. And they think that is anapanasati. They think anapanasati means concentrating on the breathing. This is the problem. Concentrating on the breathing. This is, most people think that the mind is a wandering mind. Mind is all the time running here and there, running about, and the only thing to stop that is to tie it to a post. Like tying a dog to a post. If the dog is running all over the place, you tie it. Now some people even call it the monkey mind, the mind that is running about. And so you have to tie it to a post. Now that is the wrong way of looking at the mind. Mind is not a thing that is running about. And what you have to do is not to tie the mind to a post. What we call concentration is tying to a post. That is not the right way of looking at the mind. But today most people look at the mind in that way, and they have been taught that. People who teach meditation always talk about tying the mind to the post. That is the wrong way of thinking. The right way of thinking is like this water. The water we can remain in an unshaken state, or it can start shaking. what we call the mind running is the shaking. That is how we have to understand it. The mind that is shaking or the mind that is not shaken. And when we think of the body, we must think of the body that is tensed and the body that is relaxed. So the body either tensed or it is relaxed. The mind, whether it is shaking like that or is not shaking. That is how we have to look at the mind. So what we are trying to do is not to tie the mind to a post, but to learn to relax the body and calm the mind. That is what meditation is all about. So samadhi is not concentration. Samadhi is relaxing the body and calming the mind. The stillness of the mind, that is samadhi. Samadhi is not concentration. Samadhi is stillness of the mind. This is very important to understand, otherwise you are sure to enter the hypnotic state if you begin to meditate. You know, long time ago, there was a man called Mesmer, Frank Anton Mesmer. He was using what at that time they called it mesmerism, because they didn't have any other word to describe it. What he really did was hypnotize people. And the hypnotism could do wonderful things, cure diseases. So everyone started going to him when they are sick. And he was able to cure diseases with hypnosis. But he never called it hypnosis. It was simply called mesmerism. But of course, there were people who were criticizing him, that he was doing some false cures and not the real thing, and it's not good and all kinds of things. And so the government had a committee appointed to examine this, and ultimately that committee decided that it was not the real thing, and he was banished from the country. So he had to go and live in another country, someplace, take refuge. So that was the end of his career. But there was a doctor in England, his name was Dr. Bread. He was the person who became interested in this kind of thing. He was a psychologist, and so he went and examined what these people, that committee who examined them, what they have discovered. So that they had said, oh, this is not a real cure. This is all based on their imagination of people. That's what they said, imagination. So this doctor experiment on this, and it worked. That means he found that it was really true, that it is all done by the imagination. And that imagination has a very great power. You can imagine that your sickness is cured and you'll be cured. Everything depends on the imagination. And so, imagination was very important. And so he is the one who, the Dr. Brett was the one who gave the name hypnosis. He saw it as a kind of sleep. And if you can put a person into a certain sleepy state and give ideas, you see these human beings, I told you that we have two minds. One mind is the emotional mind, and the other mind is the thinking mind, which even the Buddha used, recognized and gave two names. The thinking mind was called Mano, and the emotional mind was called Chitta. The important thing is, the thinking is done by the thinking mind. Emotional mind cannot think. And the emotional mind can be given any ideas, and it works through imagination. If you have a picture in your mind, the picture will excite the emotion. That is how things go on. Because we have the thinking mind. Now if I tell you, you are stuck in your chair, you cannot get up. What will happen? If you believe that, you will find that you cannot get up. But if you question, oh, how can that happen? I have been getting up all the time, I can't get up. That is that thinking mind comes and interferes with this. But if you can stop the thinking mind, if you can be made to fall asleep by stopping the thinking mind, then whatever I say will just happen. It is accepted. That is what is done in hypnosis. The easy way is to get a person to concentrate. If you begin to concentrate, the thinking mind stops automatically. Concentration is something that stops the thinking mind. And if you expect something to happen, you'll begin to see it happening. And these are what are called hallucinations. This is how hypnosis works. So, if you want to get any further information about this, you can speak to our friend Billy. He knows about this very well. And the important thing is that the imagination is a very important thing, and the Buddha used this. It was by using imagination that the Buddha was able to stop this shaking of the mind by holding on to good images in the mind. That is the meaning of meditation. And there are two kinds of meditation. One is to calm the mind, and the other kind of meditation is to correct the thinking. It is the thinking that also gets the emotions excited. So, we have to learn to keep the mind calm and also to correct the thinking part. That is why we have two kinds of meditation. One is called samatha bhavana, the other is called vipassana. Samatha is to calm the mind, and vipassana is to correct the thinking. That's the main thing. So, I think we have almost come to the end of our time. And there are some more things to talk about, but maybe we have to stop here tonight and we continue the next time. Huh? So, do you have any questions to ask? No questions today. Huh? Oh, that's good. That means you have understood. So, if you have no questions, these are good things to you learn many things, I suppose, and some of these things you are learning for the second or third time, some. But for some it may be new. So anyway, even if it is repeated several times, it is good, because every time you listen the second time or third time, you are learning something more. And the importance of not trying to concentrate is very important. And so, we will then share the merits with all departed relatives and friends.